go live, but hold on.
All right.
Greetings, everyone. Peace and blessings be unto you all. I am Minister Jamie Eatman, and I am indeed on the rise. And so are you, at least for the next hour anyway. I'd like to thank you all for joining me, those of you who are, those who are coming, and those who will see this later. I bid you all peace and blessings. We always start the program with prayer. Let us pray. Most Holy Father, Lord, we thank you. We just thank you for all that you're doing in this hour. We thank you for your spirit that leads us, your spirit that guides us. We thank you for your word. Your word says that we should reprove, correct, instruct, exhort. May we be about your business. May our eyes, our ears, our minds, and our hearts be open that we might be attentive to what you're doing in this hour. And I just pray that whoever hears or sees this program at whatever point it might be, that they shall receive something that will impact their lives. They might be educated, motivated, or inspired to rise above some situation or circumstances that they are facing. We give you honor and glory in all things. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, all right, my brother. Yeah, I was just saying to you about that drawing. We'll talk later about that because that's something that I guess everybody need nowadays. With all the AI, it probably makes the need for artists even more apparent because there's some stuff that AI just can't do. No emotions, no nothing. But it's out there. People are using it. And instead of it, I'm sure it's decreasing some jobs, but I think it's also increasing some opportunities. But welcome, my brother. How I asked you earlier, how are you today? Are you ready for today's program? That you bring us anything new?
Yes, I did. I brought you quite a bit, and it starts with a verse from Nehemiah, and it's chapter 9, verse 6. You alone are the Lord. You made the heavens, even the highest heavens, and all their starry host, the earth and all that is on it, the seas and all that is in them. You give life to everything, and the multitudes of heaven worship you. Now, I say that I was looking for. It took me a good bit to find that verse because I remember it from a while back, and uh, I'm not sure which country is doing it because it seems like it's a group of people investing into this.
Mm-hmm.
They are trying to make humans out of nothing without the use of women. I don't know exactly. Like I said, it's a few countries involved in this. I don't know why they're involved in this. I don't even know why this became a question someone should try to answer. So, in the past, we have already cloned uh, animals. We've cloned cows, we've cloned lamb, we've cloned sheep. We've done this already. We don't know if it's successful or not because we can't read their minds. However, someone somehow, somewhere, came up with this idea of trying to create humans. And my first question is it actual humans or is it like a version of a human, like robots? And they're saying it's going to be a synthetic being that has muscle fibers and tissues just like you and I. And uh, they they didn't give any type of information about it. They just gave a little short paragraph on what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that that first thought in my head was, well, if God didn't make it, it's probably not going to end. And I had to read that verse first to remind myself that we need to prepare ourselves for this. God is the creator of everything and on our earth, and everything that He creates is either balanced for us or good for us. And everything that we as humans tried to create eventually is bad. Like God has been creating chicken as long as humans have been alive, but chicken has not changed. Chicken is always going to be chicken. God made chicken, and He didn't create a new chicken. He just made chicken, and chicken has been the same for thousands of years. But then someone decided that, you know what, we're going to try to make humans. Last time I checked, God made a human in His own image, so that's pretty perfect enough for me. So, uh, to the subject of be prepared, just be careful and be prepared about uh, your personal information. You and I were talking before the show started, and
Hmm.
uh, people can easily steal your information.
Yep.
So, with that being said, that also brought me across, with along with people stealing people's DNA and all this information and stuff about them. Make sure you protect yourself, especially if you own a house.
Hmm.
There's a fraud that's in the world today that's called mortgage fraud. And basically, anytime you buy a house, anytime you buy anything of material value, there's a receipt or there's a paper showing that it's yours. When it comes to a house, um, this is for you. This is for people that own their house, people that own their cars. I haven't seen it done with cars lately because it's a little bit harder to do, but it's a lot more easier to do it with a house. So the deed to your house and who owns your house and all the information about your house, as far as square footage, how much land it sits on, that is public information. And anyone can go to your county and request that information with $60 or $70. They just fill out a form, they give the clerk $60, and they get that very basic information of who owns it, how much land it sits on, how much square foots, how many bedrooms, bathrooms. All that information is public. So if you ever gone on Zillow, that's all the information they give you. They can give you all the way down to how much taxes you paid last year. And so there's a very free and simple way to block this. And the way to block it is uh, to find yourself a lawyer and to ask them to make sure you're notified anytime someone tries to look up your records. So they can send it to your email, they can send it to your phone. But basically, anytime someone fills out that form, the law says that they have to notify whoever it is to notify. So make sure you go down to your local clerk office and say, hey, I want to have a notification anytime my information for my house is looked up. And they have to do that by law. They have to do it because if they don't do it, then you can sue the county that you live in. And I'm sure they don't want to do that. So make sure you guys protect yourself.
Right. And that's very valuable information. And with where things are going today, believe it or not, there's a lot of positive things with the blockchain that's coming down, because sooner or later they're going to have these deeds and everything on the blockchain. And one thing with that is, it's like a key. Everything has a key. If you don't have the keys, that's what they say about the money and funds you have. No keys, no cash. You lose your keys, you lose your cash. So when they start putting documents like that on the blockchain and it's recorded, that's kind of something that's not as easy to change. But you're right. I know people that go and spend the whole day in the library. Supposedly, well, it used to be library. I don't know how they're doing it now, but they would be looking for people that had issues with their deed, their property, and there was a science to this. So you're right, and anything that can be done as a science for good can also be done as science for evil.
Hmm.
So I hear you. Something for you, Brother Gregory. We were talking about the aspect of it was Umar. I think it was Umar or someone that brought something that we had just talked about. It. Oh, it wasn't Umar. It was California. But let me say peace and blessings to Lady Antoinette Eatman. That's either her legitimate account or someone that's bold enough to come in my room with her account. But either way, you're welcome. And Sister Crystal Harris, Apostle Harris, she joins us on Wednesday's program. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate the support. But Brother Gregory, did you know that I saw an clip? It was a news article. I think I may have saved it, but it actually pertains of all things reparation. Can you believe that?
Oh, really?
It pertained to reparation. But the thing that was really interesting about it, as a matter of fact, I found it. Let's watch this. Hold on, that may not be it. I may have gotten the wrong thing. I did. But it pertained to reparation, and it's something that's happening in California. And California, supposedly they passed this legislation in the houses or something, but it's now before their governor. But this is the thing. Now, word reparation, you said, "Oh, really?" Tell me what's the first time when you heard that word. I tell you what it's about. What was it that
I
came
heard
to
about
mind?
something, and it was something that happened in California where they were requesting uh, anybody that's descendant of slaves in California that can receive reparations.
And you're probably correct because the way that it read, it said that one of two reparation bills or something of that nature had passed. But the one that passed, and they didn't even mention what you just stated, but I did figure there's something else out there. And anytime I hear the word reparation, my first thought is slavery and black people. But this actually pertained to people that were illegal, that had crossed the border and so forth, and they were looking to um, give them the same amount of money, a similar money to what you and I discussed on the program. When you gave us that money that each state gets, they actually was looking to give reparation to those people that came here that weren't even registered, to give them that money that would, I think it was like 500,000 or something that they could use toward a house. They had to pay some cash.
Hmm.
But when I heard that, my first thought was, here it is now. We have one one person in the form of Trump who literally would probably jump on anything that would make a big difference or spread between him and Harris, with them both running. And here we have Harris, a black woman who wants so much to appear to be black. And we have issues like this that's going on around them while she's actually still vice president and Biden is still in office. But this is starting in California. But to hear that, and this is reparation, they would actually use the word reparation in that manner, and no alarms are going off, no bells, no whistles. Something is extremely wrong with that. And the way the article read, the guy pointed out that the way things are set up, he said that as things go in California, so go they in the United States. So what he was attempting to say was that if this passes in California, which is before the governor now, this is probably going to be something we're going to see throughout the United States. What are your thoughts on that?
Um, so the definition of reparation is the making of amends for a wrong one has done by paying money to or otherwise helping those who have been wronged.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that definition, the number one definition on there, on the word reparation, according to that definition, someone that has crossed into crossed into America illegally from Mexico or Canada, the two that's bordering us. I'm confused on how America has done them wrong.
Well,
So someone needs to bring up that word. If they're going to use that word, that's the wrong terminology because we did nothing to them that has come. Matter of fact, we opened up the doors for them. And the definition of the people in America that should receive reparations are any Asian that has came over uh, uh, during the early, I want to say 1750s to 1850s, because they basically, the Asians themselves basically laid down the railroads for America. Um, Now, mind you, they were getting paid, but it was barely enough. By the time the Asians came over, black people were started to, do well for themselves. And then also African Americans that were forcibly shipped over here and treated like slaves. We weren't given anything but, pigs and somewhere to sleep. That's it.
mhm,
So we were done wrong. And um, the fact that the Asians got a salary, eh, I don't know if now I'm thinking about it, I don't know if I would want to include them into that word of reparations. Uh, the next group that I would assume would receive reparations would be the Native Americans.
mhm,
Um, you know, they got moved out of their homeland and they were nearly wiped out, uh, by the white man. So they should receive reparations. They received them in their own way, but um, I think African Americans and Native Americans should be the only ones that receive any money with the word reparations attached to it. Now, if the Democrats want to give the illegal immigrants money, they should use a different word. If they maybe call it uh, a legal GoFundMe. I don't know. That was probably the wrong thing to say, but something along those lines of. But don't use the word reparations because they don't fit the definition.
and even listening to what you're saying, because this is Rise to Prosperity, educating, motivating, inspiring individuals to rise above life situation and circumstances. You know, as we look at even our topic today, planning to prosper, when we get so desensitized to words like that, because we speak of it and we're intelligent black men, so we can speak of it and we can speak of it objectively. But there comes a time when we have to be subjective. And we look at a term like that with everybody that you mentioned, I wouldn't say that who was or who is or isn't, but I would look at the fact when you look at the damage that was done, and our topic as we talk about the cost, counting the cost. If you look at the United States and where it is today, how it got where it is today, and the significance behind, as you said, is tracks that you attribute that, and that's great. They probably work side by side. I'm not sure, but I will say this: when we look at historically what took place, we are looking at an issue that's reality that not many people want to face. Because in reality, when we look at the deficit and the money that's being spent here in the United States and what they're doing with money and the amount of money that they used overseas to fight a war that some people might be opposed to. And here it is, you have these people still here in this country that really is the wealth producers of this country, and I say wealth producers, but they didn't produce wealth for themselves. They were the labor force of this country. So when you look at the cotton, when you look at all the materials, when you look at the supply and demand and all these things going on, we could see something here that it deals with justice, it deals with equality, it deals with morality. All these issues are on the table. So when I saw that particular clip, the thing that I guess you could say offended me the most was, here's a state here, and those gentlemen were talking about this just as we are now. And and Brother Gregory, I guess I ain't reached that plateau yet because it bothers me. I couldn't be as objective as you're being in that explanation. I couldn't align those people there like that because when I know about the history, the wealth in this country, and even the disproportions, and even the things today that are being done, if I look at education and the things that they would deny this country as a whole to hide the shame, it bothers me. So when that word reparation comes up, it isn't just a discussion like I always say, um, the my vocabulary versus the dictionary. You when you recalled what the definition mean, you probably got as close to the dictionary as you could. But when my vocabulary and I hear those words, then it touches me, it moves me, and when I hear that, it bothers me. So when you hear topics like this come up, these are the type things here that are going to create. They're already creating tension. As a matter of fact, I tried to find the article as you were speaking, the video, and I couldn't. But I didn't realize there was so much out there with people talking on reparations. You know, things begin as a rumble. There's a rumble in the jungle, and eventually it becomes a roar. And by the time that roar gets to the people, it causes different emotions. Some begin to panic, some begin to respond, some operate out of fear, some operate out of opposition. But there's a lot of things that's going on. And in this season, there's a lot of things being made manifest. And it's very important that we know that we know that we know, because there's some things about the change. And I've said this several times, and I'm going to say it again today. I firmly believe that there is a wealth transfer going on. Has nothing to do with what America wants to do. It has something to do with BRIC and what they're doing, because that's wealth and prosperity as they see it. But even here in the United States, I see where there is a wealth transition occurring, even down to as when you look at the housing market, the dollar being devalued abroad, and how that is going to impact the United States here. There's so many things that are going on. I was listening to Brother Umar, and I do have this video, and my brother was laying it down concerning we as a people and our churches. So when you look at all these this rumbling, it's like Ezekiel. He heard a noise. He heard, no doubt, a rumble. And he said there was bones that were coming to themselves. And as they came together in this very, very dry place. And I see that happening today with everything that's going on now, even with the confusion and the attempt to hoodwink everybody with what's going on with Trump and Camilla and the powers that be and what they're trying to do. I see God on the throne, and he's working amidst it all. And as we look at these things, this issue, we're just touching on reparation, but it's coming to the forefront. And when it does, it's going to be interesting to see what the outcome is going to be.
Well, I can definitely say this. I heard about reparations being introduced into California starting at the beginning of this year, and they were saying they were going to try to, get something to happen to where people can start receiving money come this coming January. And my first thought in my head, and I'm only 39 years old, my first thought in my head was black people would never see a dime of that. There is no way that the government will pay every single black person enough money to say, to go buy a new car. There is no way that's going to happen. And the reason why I know that is because I hate to be racist, but the powers that be, they know if they give black people the opportunity to get ahead of them, then they know this whole country will change for the good. It will definitely change for the good. And it's sad that no matter which politician you want to vote for, they both need black people for them to be a president, and so they're going to play into the ignorant black people because unfortunately there's more black people that don't read to earn knowledge, to gain knowledge, than there is black people that will read to gain knowledge at their leisure. And that's just facts. If you go to any high school, you will see a, let's say, a classroom of 30 black kids. There's only going to be one black kid in there that reads for pleasure versus the 29 that's remaining only read because they have to. And that's an unfortunate fact. And they've done case study after case study of showing how, black kids are slowly falling behind year after year, but they're not doing anything about it, and they're purposefully not doing anything about it. We see
Mhm.
the Georgia Lotto go up to, billions of dollars every so often, but we don't see that the Georgia lottery is supposed to pay for education, but we don't never see any advancement in education. What do they do? Oh, they give everybody tablets or everybody computers. That doesn't help with learning. What they should be doing with that money is hiring more teachers so the classes are smaller, build more schools so the classes are smaller. So each student can get more one on one attention instead of sitting inside of a classroom that looks like a college lecture hall. But if we, when we actually do good for ourselves, it's a few of us that will rise to the occasion. We're the ones that come to successful, and the majority, unfortunately, is those people that only read if they have to. They look down upon us. They're the popular ones. They're the ones that are clouding social media. They're the ones that are clouding the minds of the young black people, and they're the ones that young black people are looking up to because they're the only ones they see. When we have people like Dr. Umar, he's a young man in comparison to some of the our greatest leaders. And so um, when I mentioned to my nephew, he's 19 years, yeah, I think he's 19 years old now. I mentioned to my nephew, I said, you should watch this video with Dr. Umar. He's like, who's Dr. Umar? I was like, why don't you know who he is? He's laid down several roadmaps for young people to follow in whatever direction they want to go to as far as, when they go to college or if they don't want to go to college. He said, you can be successful if you go to college or if you don't go to college, but you have to follow these steps. And it's a sad story to tell, but um, it's still happening. It's still happening to us that they they put just enough ignorance in front of us for the young people to think, oh, that's cool, that's flashy, that's nice, so they won't pick up a book and read. Like
Mhm.
they claim they're giving us the tools to learn, but they're closing libraries. They claim that they're giving us the tools to learn, but they're getting rid of seasoned teachers. In place, they're putting in young teachers that just are desperate to earn some money, and they'll teach whatever they need to teach, even though it's not the right thing. Like
Oh,
we
hold
don't
on a
need a
second, brother Greg. Hold on one second. You said
yes,
something,
sir.
and I just want to say this, and I give you back the floor because I really think this is important for you and for our listeners. The teachers are not willing to teach anything. The topic of Black history, there's a topic called critical sensitive subjects, and they are labeled that not because of the students not wanting to learn them, but because of this population that you're talking about not being apt are willing to teach them, because the things that they are learning, you just said this earlier, what they're having to study now isn't just leisurely reading. When now they got to study to teach. So as they're studying to teach, they are seeing the nakedness of themselves as white people. They're seeing the nakedness as it pertains to this country. And a lot of them are not willing to teach that. So when you see this uproar concerning these topics that they're wanting to take out of the classroom, there's a reason they're wanting to do it. It's a little bit more in depth than it just being a white issue. This is a reality check where reality is slapping the hell out of some folks, black and white.
Hmm.
So and I apologize for the interruption, but I want to state that because as I was doing my research, that was an area that there was very little documentation on it. But what was done by this white lady. She was one of them in Alabama, my hometown. As a matter of fact, it were schools in the area that I grew up in. And what she found was that there was a problem with history in our communities. And when she did the study, gave the teacher surveys and all that, what she came up with was they were not prepared to teach it. They were not willing to teach it because when you get into certain topics, it opens the door. If a person doesn't have that
Right.
strong character, they can't teach certain things. So I just wanted to add that because that piece there is important, and we need to know that on both sides of the fence. Because as you
Right.
said, we're responsible for the upbringing and instilling certain things in our youth. And if it's missing, the where to place the blame in this particular case is a little bit broader than we realize.
Well, no, I completely understand that. Like when I was in, elementary school, um, we learned nothing but Black history during the month of February. We didn't learn about any other type of history but Black history. And thank God I had teachers that loved Black history, that made other, nationalities learn Black history. And um, but when I saw my nieces and nephews go through school, I asked them, "Yo, what did you learn today? During Black history?" Uh, we learned that there was slavery and it was bad. Well, hold
Mm-hmm.
on now. What are the good things you learned about Black history? I don't know. Well, who created the cotton gin? I don't know. Really? Like they don't know very simple Black history things.
Mm-hmm.
Like a Black man created the cotton gin not to advance his career, to relieve slaves. Like people don't
Mm-hmm.
realize that part. But I was taught that when I was in fourth and fifth grade. My white teacher told me that the cotton gin was not created to make money. The cotton gin was created to reduce the need for slaves. And not a lot of people know that because not a lot of people were taught that. I was just fortunate enough to have white teachers that love Black people. So they weren't gonna
Mm-hmm.
hold their tongue for Black people. And
Right.
you're right. Teachers are getting away from those touchy subjects. They're just trying to give you a broad stroke of things. And it's what they have to understand is that, it's a part of American history. If you only teach the good parts of American history, when you get out in the real world, you're going to get hit in the face with the bad parts of American history. And it's going to hurt real bad.
Right.
And so my nephew, he went to FAMU and he's gonna get a very heavy dose of reality because he went to a white public school and when he was in high school. And I'm very certain they didn't teach him as much as I learned. Uh, so when he gets to FAMU, he's gonna find out real fast that Black history is every day in FAMU. And
Mm-hmm.
because that happened to me when I went to Tuskegee, Black history was every single day while I was there. Now, granted, we did learn some other people in American history when I took my history class, but it wasn't as much as you think. So
Right.
I mean, the teachers, because they're not getting paid as much as you think they're getting paid, especially in the urban areas. Um, if they want to stray just a little bit to teach the truth versus teach the curriculum, they get in trouble for doing that because I've heard principals say to teachers, "You're wasting time." They tell them you have to teach all this stuff and get them to learn all this stuff, and you only could cover 1 week of Black history, even though it's a huge chunk of our history. It's horrible. It's deplorable, and
Right.
it's creating these people that come out of high school not knowing nothing. Like they don't even know how to file taxes. They don't know how to file taxes. They don't know how. They don't know. They don't understand the advancements of Black people. They don't understand. They will never teach this. They will never teach kids about Tulsa, Oklahoma. They will never teach that. And I'll put my January paycheck on that. They will never teach Tulsa, Oklahoma and the history of Tulsa, Oklahoma and why it was so good to Black people.
Mm-hmm.
And people that's listening, if you don't know what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, just type in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black people. That's all you need to type in. You'll learn everything about Tulsa, Oklahoma.
I have a question for you, Brother Greg, and that's great because I learned something about Tulsa before I ask you this question. I learned that actually some of the areas that were burned, and it wasn't just Tulsa, that was like areas like that pretty much spread, but the same thing
Hmm.
happened to them. It's almost like there's this consensus of what was going to be done, and it was to hold them back. But when they rebuilt these areas or attempted to do so, they were either burned again or they were not as successful. I've heard Dr. King speak, and he made reference to like even the sit-ins and how the white businesses benefited from the sit-ins because what that did was cause Black people to spend the dollars that they were spending in their communities in the white community. So what we end up doing in order to make progress, we actually did some things that would impede our progress in the future. So when we look
Hmm.
at this, if we're not aware of it, and we'll think, hey, I use this analogy. We're on this track and we just sitting here shooting the breeze, and this person is like 3 laps ahead of us. We're gonna always be 3 laps behind. Let's continue to just shoot the breeze. But if we're gonna ever try to gain something, to own an inheritance we can pass on versus our stats continually being the same year after year, it's going to call for some type of analysis, and we're going to have to do some deep searching, some soul searching, because the thing I wanted to ask you was this: when we look at the places like Tulsa and Wall Street, and I was told there's a Wall Street here in Atlanta, they've set up a community and they called it Wall Street. How significant is a location that's built to, I guess, as a reminder of what we once were compared to the spirit of what they had to have been to be that? Do you think we missed something?
Um, no, because what's gonna happen is when like-minded individuals come together and they start growing something, it's gonna be a very simple get with the program or get out. And the bigger those communities become, the more apparent, those people are going to want to be a part of it. And the downside to that is not only will Black people want to be a part of it, those other people going to be want to be a part of it too. And what history has shown us is that as soon as Black people come together and start creating something good, those other people literally bury it or put a dam up and flood the town. They literally do these things. Google
Mm-hmm.
Lake Lanier history, and you will find out very quickly that Black people lived in the bottom of that lake, or where it wasn't a lake before, it was a Black town, and they flooded that lake uh, uh, to flood that town. Um, if you Google Manhattan, what's the name of that park? It used to be a small black town, and it was proper. It was prosperous black people that lived in that town, and it was a part of New York City that nobody wanted to be a part of. It was Manhattan, and that's where black people thrive because apparently, back then, all the major part of New York City was on the mainland. On that island, there was no white people on that island at one point. So it was black people that lived in what's the name of that park? I forgot the name, that famous park in Manhattan. Um, but the name of that park, it used to be a black town. It was actually a small little city that black people thrived in. Some of the wealthiest black people there. They literally bulldozed that town and built a park and put a lake there. And
Hmm.
every point in history has showed us that soon as black people start doing good, they flood them, they burn them, or they drown them, or just bulldoze them. And we have technology now to spread the word when black people are getting wronged, and more people are starting to step up, and other than black people, and saying, "Hey, you shouldn't be doing this." Like the first instance of technology working in our favor was the Rodney King beat. That was the first time someone other than black people found out that they are beating us for no reason. And
Hmm.
the sad part is, how long were black people saying they're doing us wrong before someone else from another race said, "Oh wow, they are doing them wrong"? Like it took all the way up until the early 90s for this to be on videotape and circulate around the United States that something was happening to black people. It's almost like we were saying this all along and no one believed us. So fortunately enough, we have cameras everywhere to where we can hold people accountable for wrongdoings. That's not going to really deter them, but we have to come together as black people, and we have to basically get down to the nitty gritty and say either get with the program or get out.
What you're saying, it makes sense to agree, but even with that, there's a piece missing, and this is where conversation like this becomes so important because I would beg to differ. It wasn't solely with Rodney King. Lady Antoinette says the place she was referring to was called Central Park. It wasn't with,
Yes.
with Rodney King. If you think about doing the civil rights and go back and look, you see the footage of the dogs attacking the people. So even back then, that exposure impact what was going on. And one of the difference between Malcolm X and Martin Luther King was Malcolm X had an ear of the United Nations. So he was able to, as you just stated, when he was able to go and speak with individuals about what was going on here, and then it showed up on the screen, that did bring about change. And I would also like to submit to you that when you said something, I want you to see the reality of it, because we seem to think that uh, a couple of catalysts are enough to ignite a fire, and it's not. When we look at what took place during the George Floyd incident, when they saw what took place, where were a lot of the white people? They were out there in the street with the black people. So you had the numbers, but you didn't have the movement. The movement. I was listening to Minister Farrakhan today, and the brother said something that just really stuck with me. And a young man asked him, then this is a very significant question. He said, "What about the Dr. King, the Malcolm X?" And he said, and I'm going to put you in there, and the Minister Farrakhan, who we learn to follow as leaders. And when they are gone, the people don't have any leaders? What about the people learning something to lead themselves? And Minister Farrakhan, his quote was, "My brother, the future's in good hands with people like you." Because what he told him made perfect sense. He said that none of those individuals, when you look at leadership, they ever set out to be just a leader. None of the prophets set out to just be a prophet. They had disciples. And I love the way he said that. And because you have disciples, you're teaching someone to follow in your footsteps. When the cameras come around, the wolves become foxes. And as you said, the poisonous snakes stop biting, but let the cameras lead. Then they're just as deadly as they were in the beginning. That is the reality. But there's a duality to our reality. And I think that it is so very important. But I'm going to see if you have anything else on that. And then I want to address this duality portion, this duality piece real quick.
Oh no, I completely agree with what you're saying. And as far as when they were being sicked on with dogs and sprayed with water
Right,
hoses,
right,
that that film did not circulate through the United States because the media was being controlled very well by then back then.
right.
So it didn't make it out of South. It didn't make it out the South. It never made it to California until years later. It didn't make it that far.
But the movement
They
did. But the
Yes, it
movement did.
did. Yes, they marched all the way out there. But certain film they were able to say, "No, don't play it over here," or "We don't want to see that over here." And they had that option of saying yes or no to different news stories. Um, um, when the Rodney King beating happened, it was such an outcry because what followed that was the riots, and because there was such an outcry for it way back in California, people started covering the riots, and then people said, "Well, why are there riots?" That's when you have to show that film. Uh, so even then, when we were saying, we need help, uh, back in Martin Luther King, yes, there were white people marching with us, uh, but it has to be all, in accordance to, we all have to think the same way. We have to, have that same mindset. And so, when we start these smaller communities, and we say we have to have that same mindset, there's people that try to throw a wrench in the machine that's running,
Hmm.
and people have to just be firm on what they believe in. Say, look, I'm gonna stick to this, and I'm gonna get it right, and we're not gonna let outsiders sway us. And so, I pray that I can be a part of that community one day, that we all think, we'll be happy and joyous because we're not letting outside influence us.
Right. And you let me right back to my point on that duality. Because as we sit here and we talk, and we can use words like them. We know who we're talking about. But when it comes down to it, it's like having a child and you're a wise parent. An ignorant parent will go to the school and ain't hearing nothing because that's their child. A wise parent goes to the school, hears the situation, lets the teacher know what they think, but takes the child home and takes care of business. The difference is this: when that child sees that there's no standard, you'll get behind anything that they do. They don't have any values, they don't have that discipline. But when they're held accountable and you go there and you find out what is what and you deal with it accordingly, the child doesn't need to know what you told the teacher. They need to know what happened when they got home. But you're building bridges on both sides. But when you don't do that, that becomes a problem. So the duality is this: when we talk about them, it's equally important as we are prepared to be able to deal with us. And one of the things I read into this organization when I was in Augusta, it was called Black on Black Crime. And initially, it didn't make much sense because it's like black people looking at black people committing crime. But, only way we change that is that we change as people. And the more I kind of became aware and informed, the more I saw a need for an organization like that. Most people don't want to hear something like that, black on black crime. But there comes a point where you can't go forward demanding justice and equality when there is so much corruption behind you. You know that saying, sweep around your own front door, get your own house in order. So we have to kind of divide that up. It's a duality thing. Somebody needs to go forward while somebody else is going backwards. We're cleaning as we are demanding. We're cleaning as we are demanding. So as we go forward and demand, we're taking away that hand that's going to be pointing behind us. Do you see what they're doing over there? That's a waste of money putting this over here. Even those same riots that you talk about, that's one of the things that we as a people have to learn. We can't be rioting in our own communities. This everything that you destroy during a riot, unless it's meant to destroy your community the way they did with the Black Wall Streets and so forth, you need to use some sense. And this is this little clip I'm going to share with Dr. Umar. I think it's him.
Check this out.
In the context of black on black genocide, do you realize we don't even ask the presidential candidates about the violence in our community? We don't even ask the governors about the violence in our community. We don't ask the mayor. We act like black men are not exterminating each other on a daily basis. How did we become so immune to black on black crime? How did we become so immune to the tears of black women, the tears of black mothers? All these black mothers across America have had to bury their sons and their daughters. They've had to mourn in silence because the community doesn't care enough to embrace them. Our black mothers have had to endure the pain of losing their babies and not having a sympathetic community shoulder to cry on. How did we get to the point where black on black homicide is not even a concern for most black people? Let me put this in context. Let me resensitize you to black on black homicide. Black men are the leading cause of death for black men. I want you to sit on that for 1 minute. I want you to sit on that. Black men are the leading cause of death for black men. Arabs are not the leading cause of death for Arabs. East Indians, Kamala Harris's people. East Indians, Kamala Harris's people, they are not the leading cause of death for themselves. European Jews are not the leading cause of death for European Jews. Anglo-Saxons are not the leading cause of death for Anglo-Saxons. Chinese are not the leading cause of death for China. Black men are the leading cause of death for black men. And the black community is completely silent.
Right. I played this because he said the black community is completely silent. That's because we constantly try to blame this on someone else. We want to blame it on the government. We want to blame it on a gas station. There was just now a shooting outside of a gas station. A couple of shootings happened outside the gas station. Do you not know that there was a protest outside that gas station. Black people holding up signs, protesting, talking about they want to shut this gas station down because it's bad for the community. Why is it bad for the community? Because black kids keep on shooting each other in front of my gas station. Excuse me, I'm trying to run a business. I'm not raising your sons. It ain't me that's raising your sons. I got a business right here. I would prefer that they take that silliness around the corner somewhere or just stop altogether. But how accountability?
Okay.
So all we need is for Kamala to stand up there and blame everything on the right, blame everything on the white people, blame everything on a systemic racism, blame everything. You can't get abortions. You can't get as many abortions as you want. That's because the white man, the government want to make decisions about your body. Okay. And I'm not trying to be sensitive about a woman's body. I try to stay out that conversation. That's your business, right? You know what I mean? I only get in the conversation when my tax dollars have to do with your business. You know what I mean? I say feel free to do whatever you want to do because we all got to answer to God.
And as that ends on that note, we do have to answer to God. And answering to God first and foremost. But if we had a preconceived notion of God, we wouldn't be answering so much. We'd probably be able to praise more. We'd probably be able to hope more, experience more, and desire better. But that becomes a problem. When we look at what he just stated there, Brother Gregory, I mean, is there anything you can say other than amen?
Yes. He said, black men are the leading cause of black men deaths, and he should have also added to that, black men are the highest demographic of suicide for for the same reasons that he said black men are killing each other. Black men are killing themselves. No one is supporting them. No one is supporting every. Look, I was raised to love my neighbor, no matter what color they are. I was
Mm-hmm.
also raised to especially love my black men and women. And because I am black, it was just it was I was just raised to show favor towards my race. Not to say that any other race is bad or good, but to we as black people are awesome. We have the road that we have traveled from coming over in boats to where we are now is, some people would think that's impossible. That's absurd. There's no way that should have happened. But we're here. And so we are highly favored. And uh, being a child of God, I also have to say that I have understood why black men are killing themselves. I understand that a lot of people will say, "Oh, it's about the respect." You have to respect yourself first before you can start respecting others. And then when someone else, quote unquote, disrespects you, you have to verbally teach them. Say, "Hey, look, no, that's not what we're going to do. What we're going to do is, lift each other's up. We're going to, show right from wrong. I'm going to take the time to show you right from wrong. I'm going to take the time to show you how it's done right." We don't want to take the time for each other no more. I don't know what it seems like. Ever since the microwave was invented, we all want just instant gratification. Here, 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 now, 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 now. And what we need to do is just take the time to develop people. Like, I understand it takes two people in the house to work now just to have a child. But what I also don't understand is when you come home from work, that's the time you need to spend to raise your child. and you shouldn't depend on the school system to raise your child. And we need to bring back the mothers and the fathers back into the household and have them, both raise the child if they want to have the child. And we need to stop putting out this image of having two, three uh, 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 baby mothers. Like, this is, I don't know why people think that's funny or that's embarrassing. Like, I've had people come up to me, especially black men, say, matter of fact, I would never forget this. I was moving into a house
Hmm.
right down the street from a charter school, and the charter school was amazing. It was beautiful. I was loving every single part of it. I volunteered there, and my mother, she volunteered there. It was a beautiful thing to see black kids being taught by black teachers in a very positive way. And then, literally down the street from them, a gentleman, he said, "Hey, can I help you move in?" I was like, "Sure, you can help me move in." And the first thing came out his mouth is, my name is this, and I got 21 grandkids. I have 20 kids, and I have 15 baby mamas. Why would you even tell me that? Why are you not embarrassed about that? Like, really? I mean, if you can support all of them and y'all live in that type of household where everybody's in the same house, I guess that's something to brag about, but that wasn't the case.
Right.
So why is that? He was older than me. I was so surprised about that. Like, why would you brag about having that many children by that many different women and have a smile on your face about it? If anything, that should be a representation of your failure to have a relationship.
Right.
But that's the society that we live in. Apparently, it's a bragging right to have that many kids by that many different baby mamas, and it's a sad thing to see. I was raised up that if you get married, that's the last woman you're gonna have for the rest of your life. So that's why I'm not married. I know for sure that when it's time for me to have the last woman ever, God will present that woman before me. But until then, I'm gonna read my books, I'm gonna eat my vegetables, and I'm gonna pray before I go to sleep every night.
Right. And that says a lot because not only while you're waiting, there's so much more that's going on, and that preoccupying thought, that discipline that keeps you from doing that is active in every aspect of your life. So that says a lot. But the biggest part of the problem is kind of, it just revalidates the program. Education. That man said that to you because in his mindset, that was the thing to boast about. He didn't just smile because, oh, this guy may not like this, or I'm just going to tell him something going to shock him. He really thought he was boasting. When I tell people, I mean, I know for myself, there's been things that I was totally ignorant about. And when I came to the knowledge of what they were and was willing to change, I look back at those things as a reminder not to go there, but they serve me in any other ways. And that's what we got to do in our communities. Some things that people come bragging about, there needs to be some type of education there for the younger ones. This ain't the way it's done. And when he went home and his child ran into someone like you and I, and his child go home, Dad, why you did whatever? He should be able to question and query his dad. And when his dad is questioning and query, then he should be at some point to the point where he is so angry. Who told you that? I'm going to go out here and do whatever. Or you're right, son. And when we get more you're right sons, we get more change. But I want to share something with you now that, and I think this is Dr. Umar as well. And one of the things that I'm beginning to see, there's a couple of people that are really coming to the forefront. Some of them are more vocal and they have more to say. But it's unfortunate that people don't always listen to the people that have something to say. They listen to the ones that are more vocal. So when you find someone that's halfway intelligent and he's not going to go out of his way to deal with the ignorance just to have a voice, that person may only get heard by a select few. So then it becomes important that those select few pass on what he had to share. It's unfortunate, even some of the videos I'm showing, that I didn't get these from a station where there's someone of color in the United States doing them. It's interesting that a lot of the things that are going on now, positive type news, is actually being done by Africans. So, and I think that's a good thing because they need the education, the wisdom that's in those statements. I don't know if they're doing it just to get numbers or whatever, but I think it's a good thing because the information is there. Even when they shut Minister Farrakhan down, his information still went forward, not because of the Nation of Islam, but because of some people that were picking it up that weren't censored the way we are here in the United States. I think that was you that said that, Gregory, about those videos. Those videos have always been there. And you're right, some of those belong to the FBI. But when the UN and people started looking into it, they were there. And they were some of the things that gave us some leeway, or you might say a leg to stand on. But listen to this. And he makes an accusation. And if you listen to the accusation that's being made, it's a very, very profound one. It sounds like most individuals just close their ears right away. I'm not listening to that. But this is something you not only need to hear, it's something you need to know and be prepared to give an account for, and maybe even help change.
As far as the Black church and the role that is currently played in where we are economically, relationally, with our families, do you feel like it should have, or it has played the role that it should have played?
Not since the assassination of Dr. King. After Dr. King was assassinated and buried a few days later here in Atlanta, Georgia, the Black church, out of fear, retreated from the front lines of the struggle, and it reinvented itself away from being an organization of agitation to an organization of accommodation. Now the Black church accommodates the agenda the white power structure has for us. Before we fought. Now, let's go have a cup of tea with the president. Let's go have a cup of tea with the government and see if we can get a couple crumbs from what he's about to do, although what he's about to do is going to destroy our community. You see that? There's no more fight in the Black church. The Black church is more parasitic and exploitative of the Black community than the Chinese stop and go, than the Latino bodega. The difference between the Latino bodega and the Chinese stop and go and the Walmart and every place else we shop is at least you get something for your money. What do you get back from the Black church when you invest? We give the Black church $3 million every Sunday collectively in this country. Show me a Black church with a supermarket for the people. Show me a Black church with a bank for the people. Show me a Black church with a manufacturing and distribution network to hire our men and women. Show me a Black church with a Black school that children who are not Christian or Muslim or Hebrew can go to.
But is that the responsibility of the church, though?
It was historically. Why did it change? The Black church was the one-stop shop for us from the time we showed up in America. We buried our dead through the church. We got hired through the church. We fought the KKK through the church. We did our politics through the church. Everything you needed was in the Black church. So it made sense for you to spend all your time at the church because the church was everything. They still want us to spend all our time at the church. And what are they doing for us? No institutions. $3 million a Sunday and no institutions? That's highway robbery. If you really care about doing the Lord's work, why are you so comfortable with your people living in hell?
That's interesting because I think that's a lot of pressure to put on the Black church.
And I only put it on churches who have a net income of $250,000 a year. If you're bringing in less than $250,000 a year, I will accept you doing some good for the community, but I'm not expecting you to build a bank, a school, a hospital, or a supermarket. But if you netting $250,000, and if you a mega church, Creflo Dollar, TD Jakes, if you a mega church and you ain't got no institutions for the Black community, come on, man, you're an exploiter.
So what's the ideal, give me the ideal picture that you would like to see, even let's say a mega church play in the community?
I would like the mega church to have a Black Wall Street. And what I mean by that is those 4 institutions: a clinic for the people, whether they're Christian or not, they Black. A school for the children, whether they're Christian or not, they black. A supermarket to feed our people fresh food coming from the black farmers, okay? And also a bank to invest in our people so we can get this entrepreneurial spirit up, because there's no jobs left in America. We have to help black people create jobs for themselves. We have to become, black America is going to have to go full-time entrepreneur.
Wow.
No more jobs. They're giving everything to the migrants. The migrants are in America to replace the Africans. This is the purge. Absolutely.
Do they have a role and a hand in the outcome of where we are as far as our families are concerned?
Who?
The church.
I would say yes, and I'm going to tell you why. The black church caters to the black woman. And the reason the black church caters to the black woman is because the black woman is the provider. She has more income and education than the man, so they're looking at this financially. They also have a vested interest in her never getting married.
Whoa.
The pastor is the metaphorical husband of all the single women in the community. I'm not saying he's sleeping with them. I'm saying he's keeping them so distracted with Jesus that they never find a husband, and that's the way he wants it to stay. Because if she finds a husband, she won't have as much time to be donating to the church all the time.
Wow.
So the black church benefits from single motherhood. They don't want our sisters married because their pockets would go down.
Is this all church or just the black
Well,
church?
there's always exceptions. Well, I don't care about the white church because that I'm not thinking about that.
Right. Just throw that out.
Us. I'm talking about us. It's not every church. There's exceptions to every rule. I know good black pastors. I know good black churches. I speak in black churches all the time. But exceptions don't negate the rule, though. You find a snake that don't bite. That does not negate the fact that most snakes are going to tear your ass up if they get a chance to. You feel me?
I got you.
And most black churches are exploitative and do not serve the needs of the community. How your church is in the middle of a ghetto with all these problems we got, and you not addressing a single one of them. Black church takes three things from black people we can't afford to waste: too much damn time, too much damn money, and too much damn hope. We don't need hope. We need an agenda for change. Now I want to bring this talk back to the relationship. This is for my black sisters out there, brothers too, but especially sisters. You hear sisters say all the time, I'm a born again Christian. My husband need to be a born again Christian. I'm a Hebrew.
I'm going to stop that there because what he's getting into there is a whole different show. But
say it again for the people in the back.
a whole different show. But what he just stated there, there'd be some people who would probably ask why you play that. But people that would ask me that don't know me. I deal in truth. And when you deal in truth, you have to call a lie a lie. One of the things I was taught is that we're on a journey. And on this journey, you're going to encounter what looks to be truth. And if ever you encounter something that looks to be the truth and you still question it, you got to get to the point where you can undress that thing before you. And if you undress the lie dressed up as truth, you will expose its nakedness. And truth, when you know the truth and the naked truth, you can't help but respect it.
Mm-hmm.
Just some food for thought there. We're about to close, my brother. Give you a few minutes, Emmy moment, and whatever else you want to tie up in it, and then I'll close us out.
That last clip I'm not going to say it was eye-opening. It was a reminder that even now it's still happening. So I was a part of Hopewell Baptist Church, Missionary Baptist Church, way, 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 way back when they were a little church on the hill. We were there from when they were in the first church at the top of the hill. I don't even know. I haven't been there in so long, and I'll tell you why. We were a part of the second church when it was just a warehouse, a metal warehouse. And my dad's company actually participated in the building of the third church. And we are a part of that church, reaching out to the community, bringing in, because it was in Norcross, a part of Norcross that was considered run down, or it was nothing but poor black people that lived there. And so we gave them gave them a place for their children to go to after school. My dad was a basketball coach. My mother, she was a part of the HR team, getting people jobs. We were out there in the community. We were doing exactly what Dr. Umar said we should be doing. But then it took a turn. The day that it took a turn was the day that someone decided, and I'm not going to name names, someone decided that any family that's making less than $60,000 a year should now have to pay for their after school daycare, should now have to pay for any food that they receive from the from the church. They should now have to pay for these. Started charging people for things that they were already providing for free. And it wasn't like they didn't have the money. If you ever seen pictures of the first, or the, I'm sorry, if you ever seen pictures of the third church that they built, it was humongous. It easily held, I would say, probably 10,000 people. Easily held 10,000 people, and I think it's even bigger now. But my point being is that that's when we left Hopewell, when they started to, instead of work for the community, they work for profit. And it wasn't revealed to me until later in life, because I was a kid when all this was happening. So, you know, they kept me out of it. But you know, it also showed me a lot of things. And my dad, you know, he would preach, you know, support the community, support the community. We had so many kids spend the night over at our house for no particular reason. Later to come out, it was because, you know, their mother and father had a dispute and he didn't want that kid to be around them. So he just, you know, it was kids at my house all the time, like all the time. Some of my best friends that I grew up with, they stayed at my house literally every single day of the summertime. And they were there, you know, we played football together, played basketball together, because they had a broken home. And so my dad provided that home for them, that structure for them. They turned out to be great men. But nobody does that in a church. And when my dad decided to show them, hey, you shouldn't be eating pork either. And they said, what, you Muslim? He said, no, Christians should not be eating pork. It's in the Bible. And he said, well, I know such and such eats pork. And you know, they named significant, you know, heads
Right.
of that church. And he said, well, hold on now. And he showed us Leviticus 11, verse 4, I believe it is. It basically, that chapter 11, it teaches us what to eat. And one of the things that we should never be eating is pork. And a lot of Christians don't know this, and they claim to have read the Bible. So, and then my dad goes on to remind you, Jesus died for our sins. He did not die for our disobedience. There's a difference.
I like that. I like that. I will remember that one, Brother Gregory. He died for our sins, which is past tense. Present
Correct.
tense, past tense. Once you come to know is past tense. That disobedience is ongoing. I like that. I like that. That's good. But Brother Gregory, I appreciate that golden moment there. That was a lot, and truly appreciate it. And you should be so grateful to be able to reflect on those experiences, things that you had a chance to see, because a lot of people don't get a chance to see it, and even if they do, they don't have the wisdom to pull it all together. I think that the things that we experience in our youth and so forth, they're all teaching tools, stepping stones. And one indication that we are wiser is when we learn how to use them as that. When our unfortunate moments become instructional instances, that's when we know we're headed in the right direction. I want to thank you all for joining us. Those of you who may see this later, and you did make it this far, I thank God for you. I know something is going to be said. It's going to make a difference, of nothing else but to stir up some thinking for you. That's one of the most important things. Is as long as you are thinking, you may be even thinking wrong. Someone will correct you in time, but don't ever stop thinking. You have a mind, use it. And I encourage you all, be the difference. As Brother Gregory alluded to about his father, it wasn't boastful. He was looking at the experiences that he saw. There's somebody that's always watching. May not necessarily be your child, may not necessarily be your wife, your son, or your daughter, but there's somebody that's watching, somebody that has the opportunity to learn something from you. So I encourage you all to rise to the occasion. And when you can rise to the occasion, only then only can you begin to rise above the circumstances and the situations. I hope you all will join us next Friday. And in between now and then, there's Wednesday when we do Rise to Prosperity at 8 p.m. Same place that you're observing or that you found this video, you'll be able to watch us there. Peace and blessings be unto you all. And thank you, Brother Gregory, for the information and the heart and the content.
Thank you for having me.
It was my pleasure, my brother. Peace and blessings be unto you all. We will see you all next time.